Hello guys, I received as of this morning 132 emails. I was actually quite surprised about asking me questions about this video of somebody else who apparently she or he, I'm not gonna say who it is, has a lot of followers, and this person is making it sound like it's almost impossible to remove the dukedoms and the duke title or any royal titles from Harry. Now, for example, if you ask me, Paula, where can I buy milk? And I tell you, well, the nearest place you can buy milk is about 1,000 kilometers away, and you have to cross mountains. And then after you cross a huge mountain, which is quite difficult to pass, and then you have to cross a river, which is very treacherous because it's very strong current. And then when you cross the river, there's a forest filled with snakes, and then when you get there, you buy your little milk and then you come back. Most likely, people would say, you know what, do I really need to drink milk? Whereas if you tell me, Paula, where can I buy milk? And I tell you it's just 4 blocks down the road, it makes a difference. Keep in mind that these are all my thoughts and opinions. Please do your own research. I have actually done quite some research. I don't do more because I do own a company and I do have to work, but I am trying my best to answer your questions, and also because I am curious too, because when somebody who claims is an expert or knows very much about it and has a lot of followers should have more of a responsibility towards people, instead of trying to put falsehoods, what I believe are falsehoods or lies, for an agenda in order to, and I really do believe that the reason why this person is doing it is to discourage people from actually requesting that Harry's titles be removed. Now, in my research, and I actually talked to somebody who's an expert about it, he says that there's 3 things, it's actually 4 things. Royal titles, the peerage, and the line of succession are 3 separate things. I'll give you an example. Sarah Tyndall and Peter Phillips have no titles, are not royal, but are in the line of succession by relations to the current ruling monarch. Now, I asked them, but I don't understand. This person is saying that it has to be an act of parliament, and from one, the videos that I had to actually watch this person's video, and I was like, so I started wondering what the hell. So I talked to this person, and he says a royal duke is not the same as a non-royal duke. When somebody is a royal duke, first, it's royal because it's directly related to the queen in a very close proximity. Cannot sit in the House of Commons nor the House of Lords. The royal dukedom is not subject to the same rules of the act of peerage as the ones that are non-royal. Because those are gifts granted by the monarch, and they are at the pleasure and complete discretion of the monarch. Then this person proceeded to tell me that there were quite a few reasons why, when King Edward abdicated, he was given the royal dukedom, because one, precisely for that he could not sit, a royal duke it's not part of that, because it's not a regular peerage. It's not a peer, you know what I mean? It's a royal dukedom, which is a title given by the monarch and belongs to the monarch. So why was he made a royal duke? Well, quite a few reasons. Because precisely he could not sit in the House of Commons or Lords to give his influence to laws or anything for that matter. because members of parliament do have a lot of say with the king or with the monarch, because don't forget that the monarch, in theory, should not be interfering with government. The monarch is only to ensure that proper governance is done. Second, King Edward was not made a private citizen because Parliament was urging the king to make the previous King Edward Windsor. But the king didn't want to make him a private citizen, because if he were a private citizen, he could run for prime minister and have a lot of influence. So the only way he could control the former king, and I guess in King George's mind, this is what was explained to me, was to make him a royal duke, but not include him in the civil list, because only the ones that were included in the civil list were financed by the government. He was financed personally by King George, which in many ways gave him power over the Duke of Windsor. Where am I getting with this? So when this person is, I believe in my mind, this is my opinion, irresponsibly saying that it's really hard, that it takes parliament, that it takes that, it's not hard at all. The Queen can publicly request that Harry gives back his titles, his royal dukedom, because the royal dukedom belongs to the monarchy, to the Queen, to the monarch. I also was curious as to why Prince Edward was not a duke, right? He's an earl, His Royal Highness, but he's not a duke, right? I thought maybe the Queen was being mean to him or anything, but no. Apparently the Queen wants him to be the next Duke of Edinburgh, and because Prince Philip is the current Duke of Edinburgh, once he dies, she has promised that Prince Edward is going to be the next Duke of Edinburgh. Now, the Queen, and this is, I'm going to read something because this is what the House of Parliament will give you. My friend, he's a litigator in the United Kingdom. He sent 4 letters to members of Parliament asking them to strip Harry of his peerage, the Duke title, and the royal titles, and His Royal Highness. He sent it the first time. He got a response. The response I'm going to summarize is that it said that because his titles are royal, Parliament cannot interfere with that, because it's at the complete discretion of the monarch to grant or remove titles. Remember that a royal duke is not part of the House of Commons nor House of Lords or Parliament, which means that it's entirely up to the monarch. So they were told that, the best that they could do is, the most that they can do in Parliament is urge Her Majesty the Queen to remove those royal titles from Harry. That's all they can do. They can urge them, Her Majesty the Queen, but they can't tell her, we're gonna. They don't have any decision over royal titles. There is an act of peerage, which, for example, there's this big scandal that I think is a relative of the Queen Mother, who has been found guilty of, and is going to serve a couple of years in jail. And according to the Peerage Act, when a member, the peer, is found guilty of a crime and convicted for 1 year in prison at least, they lose the title. But that's a non-royal title, so they are subject to punishment, and Parliament can act. Then the Peerage Act applies. But he got that letter, he got that answer right from the first one. So he sent another to a different member of Parliament. He pretty much got the same answer, saying that royal titles and styles and dignities are at the complete discretion of the monarch, and the Parliament could do nothing. He sent the 3rd letter. He didn't get anything back. He sent the 4th letter, and it's really interesting because in the 4th letter he got back, it was signed by the person who he sent the 3rd letter. But it was funny because they said to him, "Sir, and we are aware that you have sent 3 previous letters with the same request to different members of Parliament. We basically telling him whether he was hoping for a different answer, from each member. And they said, you're wasting your time, basically, writing to us. There are over 600 members of parliament. You can feel free. Obviously, you have the right to write to each and all of us. But the answer will still be the same that all royal titles, styles, and dignities are at the complete discretion of the monarch. And that they hope that this answered his questions, that as members of parliament, they cannot interfere with royal titles. So I think members of parliament, because politicians don't like to put things in writing. We all know that, right? So the fact that they put that in writing is because, they can't be held accountable for that. So they're basically throwing everything squarely on Her Majesty the Queen. Now, I don't understand why this person did that. The only conclusion I can come to is that she or he is being told by Palace, help us and make it look difficult, so the public opinion will be turned that there's nothing they can do to remove, to throw it back into Parliament. But Parliament has already spoken, at least of my friend, and it's pretty much, I think many other people have received those letters. This is why Harry Markle, in her blog, she says, members of parliament, she also mentions that members of parliament have stated that they can't do anything when it comes to royal titles. This is a part of the letter that, this is part of from the members of parliament that they wrote to, I think, the head of parliament in regards, because they were really upset that the King Edward had decided to make, that King George had decided to make the former King Edward a duke, a royal duke, and all that. It says, we came to the conclusion that the wife, this is because they didn't want, usually, people are now saying that Prince Harry has a title by right, his birthright. No, it's not. It's not a birthright at all. He's entitled by depending on whose letters patent you go by, because monarchs can change letters patent and decide who is actually going to be called the Prince, His Royal Highness, and so forth. That doesn't affect the line of succession. It only says how they can be called or talked about, which titles they can hold. And they didn't want, people were really upset about Wally Simpson. Because people say, oh, it's her right. This is one of the things that the Duke of Windsor kept going. Oh, it's her right to use my title, to be known as Duchess of Windsor and Her Royal Highness, because I am Royal Highness. That's not true. And this is what they said, because actually the Duke of Windsor was rallying around for his wife to use the HRH, and because they wanted to take away they didn't want her to also call herself the Duchess of Windsor. But this is what they responded. We came to the conclusion that the wife could not claim this right on any legal basis. The right to use the style or title, in our view, is within the prerogative of His Majesty, and he has the power to regulate it by letters patent, generally or in particular circumstances, which means that the monarch can either say, which is, for example, the letters patent from George V, 1917. He wanted to make the monarchy smaller. So he issued a letters patent saying that only the monarch, his children, and his grandchildren could use the HRH style and have titles. And only the firstborn of the eldest son of the living Prince of Wales, in this case, for example, would be Prince George, could be known as Prince and HRH. What did the Queen do in the 31st of December 2012? She issued a particular letters patent that exempted Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis from that. This is why you know now Charlotte as Princess and Louis as prince because the Queen issued a particular letters patent for that, for them. The same thing with in 1996 when the Queen issued a letters patent to deal with stating that ex-wives could not use the HRH style, and if they were to remarry, they cannot continue using the titles. For example, that apply the Duchess of York, for example. The reason why she's still called the Duchess of York is because she's never remarried. So do you see where I'm getting with this? And it's not difficult. Now, let's say that, okay, Harry's bound by the Peerage Act, which he's not, because a royal duke is not part of the House of Commons nor the House of Lords. But let's say he were. Okay. When the monarchy has won it, they move really quickly. The Queen or Parliament, they modified the law, the Succession to the Crown Act in 2013. They did it within the span of basically 5 months. And the reason why it took 5 months is because they did it in December. They were in a real rush, but in December and January, Parliament, they don't work as much because, let's face it, it's the holidays. It took them less than 5 months to get it done, though. Which basically, with the 2013 Act, they altered the laws of succession to the British throne. I'm reading here, replacing male preference primogeniture, which means that a male would take precedence over a female. This is why Princess Anne is the last in line. And they changed male preference primogeniture to absolute primogeniture. This was proposed by Nick Clegg on December 13, 2012. It was approved by the Queen, and then it goes through royal assent on April 2013, the 25th of April. Why until April? Is because by law it has to go through 3 or 4 different stages in Parliament, and they couldn't do it quicker because it had to look lawful. When Nick Clegg proposed that in December 13, 2012, that bill that he introduced had been amply discussed with Her Majesty the Queen, and it was done to her request, basically, because she could have made that line of the British replace the male preference primogeniture to absolute primogeniture back till 1948. That way, Princess Anne would have altered the line of succession with that, and she would have been above Prince Andrew, but she can't let go of Prince Andrew because she loves him. Prince Harry is not a birthright to be a prince. His titles are regulated by letters patent, and Her Majesty the Queen can absolutely regulate the letters patent. This is why I say to you guys, we can't do it. There's got to be public outrage. The press is our voice. Internet is our voice. Demand that those titles are removed. It's not hard at all. Even if Prince Harry were subject to the Peerage Act, if there is enough pressure, they could get this passed in less than 5 months. Just like they changed the laws of succession in 2013, which in this case it doesn't affect the line. And still, it wouldn't, even if they remove his HRH and the Duke titles and the Prince titles, he's still in line to the succession throne. When I mentioned yesterday or the day before, I think, when I said that there is a clause that says that according to the laws, Prince Harry, because he's within the first 6 in line to the throne, he's a council of state, unless he's out of the country. Living outside of the country, then he no longer is a council of state. So provisions like that have to be put in place, that he cannot be in the line of succession if he's not living in the UK. He cannot use his royal titles if he's not living in the UK. That can be said, or working for the royal family, that he can only use those titles while in the UK, performing and working as a working member of the royal family. There's so many things that can be done, and it's not hard. And this person should be ashamed, because I find that is terrible, because it's serving an agenda of somebody in the royal family who wants to discourage the public from doing something. The milk is not 1,000 miles away through a forest or through whatever. It's 4 blocks down the road, and it's up to us to do that. I'm really looking forward to March 2nd because there's going to be another running around. Prince Harry and Meghan committed fraud to get the dukedom, the duke titles. And for her to be using the HRH and the Duchess of Sussex title is up entirely to Her Majesty the Queen. It's not difficult. It's a letter, a pen, and a signature. Anyways, give me your comments and let me know what it is. And I'm sorry, I'm really not going to be doing very many videos because I have to work, I have to earn a living. I do appreciate you guys buying me coffee. And I'll try to do this. I'm really looking for March the 2nd. It should be fun, because if A&L appeals, you're going to see another re-editing of Oprah's interview. They haven't been able to generate enough public interest at all. Anyways, thank you. And I'm sorry it was a long video. I promise you that the next videos are going to be 8 minutes or less, okay? But it's just that so many of you answered me questions. I really wanted to be comprehensive about this. Bye-bye.